No dying on my watch. I call that a professional courtesy.
I guess KR might be better for an example. Yeah, let's use KR. What's up, Duck? You need cool cooking today? Poggers.
Now entering King's Row.
Did I do this right? I did.
Get in here. Get in here.
Wait, can you stack immortality
Get
fields?
in here. Get in here. Let them out.
Now entering King's Row.
What's up, Mukip? Dude, my ping is normal, and I just want to, like, I don't know. I'd give one of my toes for normal ping at all times. I'm so happy. I tried streaming earlier today, and it was so bad.
Get in here.
Huh.
Get in here.
So if you throw it straight up,
Get in here.
it always hits the same skybox.
Get in here.
And it looks like the skybox is not determined based on Pharaoh fly height or based on your height. It's like, even if I try to arc it like this,
Get in here.
what was the average I had earlier? MS? When I tried to stream, it was about 380, 350 to 380. In the customs, it was like later in the day, it was probably about 250, between 250, 300. Yeah, I don't know what was up. My network was not having a fun time. Okay, so I'm gonna try to do this so I can export it to YouTube with a little bit of editing. So to do that, I guess if I read a question from chat, I have to say it out loud, right? That way people who watch the VOD can understand what the question was, so I'm not just answering blindly. I'm gonna use this mic because it is better. And I can just edit the video a little. Yeah, and I'll download it from Twitch. That seems fine. Because I'm mostly doing this to put on YouTube anyway, because I don't think people are going to come watch this live, because that seems like it's so time consuming. But let's give it another 5 minutes. I don't want to be repeating stuff. Can I get better light in my room? I mean, I could. That would require me to spend money, though. And I don't want to spend money, though. My hot take here. Also, yeah, hello, chat. You'll buy me a lamp. I feel like that's a BAP meme, and I don't like it. I think it's a BAP meme, at least. I mean, like, I could... There's room. I could put a light in here. You didn't even correct the warship, dude. I typed that on my phone and I missed the A. So instead of W, peek out my window? No. Also, I don't think there's any way you could see the window in my room from anything other than my property. Adcom BAP. When did Immortality Field go from being called Lamp to being called Drone? Drone. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about this because this is a great one. In the middle of a team fight, if you start saying lamp, 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 you're probably gonna like drone, 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 drone. You're telling me you think lamp is more identifiable than drone? I think you can say drone a lot faster. I think that the specific name matters less than the ability to say it quickly. So like people say Lou, 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 Lou. I prefer drone because I can say drone, 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 drone instead of lamp, 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 lamp. You know what I mean? Kind of. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Hope I'm not rambling. Rambling would be bad. Also, the lamp, in my experience, is a lot harder for... I mean, my only experience is with Korean speakers. People who speak Korean as their first language. It's a lot harder for them to say with the accent. Whereas drone seems easier for them. And that might not be true for everybody, but at least in my minimal experience, it is. Lamp makes you shoot the glowy thing. Drone should also make you shoot the fucking glowy thing. Okay. Let's talk about some BAP first point attack KR drone spots. And I'm going to talk about them assuming our team, because this is important. We're assuming our team is coordinated. We are assuming our team is not going to instantly feed. And we are going to assume we are playing double shield. This is because as soon as your tanks start playing dive heroes, or you have a roadhog, or the enemy team has a roadhog, or your DPS are flanking and not paying attention, using drone becomes entirely reactive, right? As soon as the game gets chaotic, you're playing a reactive game. You're no longer playing like a turn-based strategy game, which is kind of what it's like when you have drone. So first point attack here, let's assume, just for the sake of this example, both teams have BAP, both teams have Mei, and both teams have double shield. So that means Sigma, Orisa, Mei, BAP, I don't care about the other two heroes. They can be whatever you want as long as they're mirrored. So you can do a couple things with drone. First of all, droning on corners is obviously really good. This drone will immortality you all the way out to here. Obviously, if you walk too far forward, you lose LOS to the middle circle. Like this yellow thing is what actually is droning you and giving you immortality. So you don't always need to put it like right up against the wall because that will give it less LOS than if you put it a little bit further back while still having the same LOS to enemies. It's not like anybody can shoot it here. Putting it too far back isn't good. Like if I were to put the drone here, it's not great because they can easily pull my tanks out and the BAP could possibly, I don't know if this angle specifically, but could possibly jump shoot it. This angle he can't. So it's important to remember. But either way, droning corners like this is always good. Your tanks can play here and shoot their shield. Your DPS can play here and shoot their shield and be totally fine. You're forcing the enemy to trade their shield cooldowns, possibly their Sigma shift, possibly their Orisa Fortify, all for this one cooldown you used. That's really high value. So any situations you can get that high value from drone are really, really good. The issue is when teams play Mei, and I'm sure you'll see this once either Overwatch League starts if it stays this meta, or when contenders matches start, stuff like that. Mei wall cuts off LOS to drone. So if I drone here and I'm Bap and I peek here and they put a wall right here, I lose the immortality. And as a 200 HP character, I die hecking fast. I can probably get one shot by just the spam that they're putting into my team. So it's important to recognize when you peek with drone for tank players, because it's hard to talk about drone without talking about associated cooldowns. When you peek with drone, your Sigma cannot be shielding because you want to be taking damage to build your Bap ult. Your Orisa should not be shielding. Your Orisa should not be fortifying, and your Sigma should not be kinetic grasping to eat projectiles. Because when they wall and split you, you need your Orisa shield, you need your Sigma shield, you need kinetic grasp, and maybe your Orisa needs fortify. But the important thing is when you drone, if they use any of those cooldowns, it's wasting it, right? Because you can't die anyway. So your tanks take damage, you shift, you right-click them, you don't worry about shooting, you build your ult. Generally, assuming the enemy team is bad and they spam your ult for its, or your drone for its entire duration, you probably get like 80% on ult, maybe 90%. And then pretty much in the first like 40 seconds of KR attack, you've already built Bap ult, and Bap ult's going to be really easy to use. Maybe not here, but on like a wider angle so you can kind of push them into the corner. So this is one really good drone spot. I kind of explained some of the thought process, some of my thought process about why I like droning on this corner and kind of what I'm thinking about in terms of tank cooldowns. So you want to take damage while in immortality. Yes. Think about it this way. Why would you not want to take damage in immortality? Well, there's a couple reasons. One, you could die. So you die by either not keeping track of the drone cooldown, or like the drone uptime, which is 8 seconds. Or you die by getting either Orisa pulled out, Sigma rocked out, some form of CC that removes you from the drone, or they maybe Mei wall it. In this kind of situation, especially for tanks, if you just remember how to use your defensive cooldowns and save them until you need them rather than using them at the start of the fight, taking damage while in drone is building your Bap ult. I don't know if a lot of you guys played when Ana came out, but because Ana built ult so fast, one of the strats was to just leave tanks in main, shoot the enemy, make them poke your tanks, build your nano, and then in the first fight you go in with a nano Rhine. So it's that kind of similar style. You can't do this on a lot of maps. Like on Koth, this is really hard, and on a lot of payloads it's very hard, especially for like Route 66 and stuff. It's not impossible, but it's harder. But on this kind of thing, and like 2CP on the static point maps, which is really only going to be hybrid and 2CP, it's pretty easy to find ways to farm with drone. And because Bap ult builds so much faster than any other ult in the game when you're all soaking damage, because it's not like the enemy is only letting Hanzo shoot you generally, right? Like their entire team is shooting you. Maybe they all get 20%, 30% on ult, but your Bap's going to have ult. And in that first fight, what matters the most is that you have Bap ult before they have anything. So yeah, that's why I like droning here and peeking main a lot. Obviously, you got to watch out for the Mei walls. Sometimes against Mei wall, you can't drone first. So like over here is a good example. Once you get through this main choke, I really don't like going left side because the Mei wall can fully cut off LOS here. Or the Mei wall can fully cut off LOS here. And it makes it very hard as a Bap to heal your tanks when they go onto this corner. Instead, if you try to get your team to come right side, not only can you drone on this, which gives you really, really deep LOS on the immortality, the enemy team cannot shoot it. Again, they can wall here to split, but even a max length wall will either have a hole in the front, which means the Bap immortality goes through it, and your tanks will still get it playing out here, or it'll have a hole in the back, and with your tank cooldowns, they can escape. So this is my second drone spot usually on KR. I think it's usually really safe. I would try to avoid the window, because snipers can pretty easily shoot drone from the window if it's too aggressive here. And then the other option is if you guys get caught rotating, you can also always drone inside. It's a little bit more awkward, but it's not bad. My thought process, by the way, with this drone, generally, is I want to be using my ult when I use this drone. So I want to drone here, right? I can see the entirety of point. I place my ult around maybe here, maybe a little bit more back, depending. And my goal here is not to get kills with my Bap ult. My goal here is to use my Bap ult to break the enemy shields and force their cooldowns. If I use my ult and they use their Bap drone, their Orisa Fortify, their Sigma eat, and like I get maybe, let's say, one Orisa shield down and I break part of Sigma shield, we're then back in a neutral fight, but I have such an advantage from just using my abilities. What would you do if your teammate is cut off by Mei wall? Depends where they're cut off and depends if you're talking about in comp or in a scrim. let's say we walk main, I drone the corner, we peek. Mind you, I would not be peeking because I don't want to get cut off by the Mei, and our tanks get walled, right? Our tanks should have their defensive cooldowns up, like Kinetic Grasp, like Fortify, and their shields to be able to walk away long enough. Something you can do, which is a bit harder in some situations, but like let's say we're walking up main here, which we shouldn't be, but let's say we are, and my Orisa and Sigma are playing on this corner, and the Mei walls right along this line. Okay, so both my tanks are cut off in this corner. I'm going to call for my team to break the left wall. Because as soon as it's broken, I can put a drone here and it'll have LOS of them and they'll be fine. And because they, again, should have their defensive cooldowns, as long as my drone gets to them before, like, it's really like 6 seconds. Maybe a little shorter, maybe more like 5 seconds, which is more than enough time to break part of the Mei wall. They should get saved by the drone. In comp, a lot of times what happens is people are overextending. So at that point, I will usually jump over and drone close over the wall. You can't actually put drone on top of the wall. It'll bounce off in a weird way. But you shouldn't be scared if you think your tanks are going to die. Like, you should jump over and drone. If you're ever letting your tanks die to any sustained damage when you have drone up, you probably are going to lose the fight anyway. Like, if your Orisa peeks a corner and she gets headshot by Hanzo and, like, headshot by Bap and she dies, that's unlucky. Your Orisa probably messed up, but it's unlucky. It's not like you're going to save her with drone. If your Orisa gets walled and she dies, what good does saving drone do most of the time? You're probably not going to win the 5v6. It's much better to commit drone and just trade the cooldown for her life, because your drone comes back up in 20 seconds. She might have a bad spawn. She might take, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds to get back to point, and you'll be down someone that entire time, so that fight becomes a lot harder. So I would generally, especially in comp, try to use drone on the first person who's going to die, assuming they're not, like, super out of position and in an undronable spot. Yeah. I'm confident with that. So, as far as all the uses for Bap drone, it has a lot. So, one of the big ones is poking to farm Bap ult and trading for cooldowns. Droning here, that's poking to farm Bap ult, right? Because you're healing your team. And you're trading cooldowns because you're shooting their shields, you're getting space. Bap drone is also really important in stopping flanks. Like if you're versus a Reaper or a Tracer or a Genji, generally they have to commit some amount of... Tracer's a bad example, but let's say you're versus like... Let's say you're versus Reaper, right? Because people will probably still play Reaper. He was pretty popular. I'm going to talk about Shift as well. A bit, but Shift is a lot simpler, I guess. Maybe. If you catch me later, maybe. Against Reaper, let's assume there's a Reaper. Let's say my team is even in a fight, right? And I'm playing here, and the Reaper teleports right here. I cannot risk getting two-shot by this Reaper. And because I'm Bap and I only really have vertical mobility, if I do this to get away from the Reaper, it's not awful, but a lot of times you don't notice the Reaper instantly when he teleports, and you only have like this much of a jump charged. So if the Reaper body shots you at close range, even though it's a shit use of your drone, you have to drone the ground. Because if you're a competent Bap player, what this does is it lets you actually force his Wraith in your backline as he's shooting your drone. Again, the drone probably gets almost no value. All it does is you're trading it for your own life. But you have to do it because otherwise you die and then you get no drone value. And again, you should try to avoid it. You can play high grounds, like a lot of times on attack. If the team's playing in the back left corner, you can play here and kind of watch this flank. There's not really a reason for you to be low ground unless they have snipers and you're trying to play with your tanks behind shield. Or if you're worried about spam. Would I do that in scrims? Drone myself with a Reaper coming at me? Yes, almost every time. Because the comps that play Reaper lose extended fights anyway. You don't usually need the drone. Okay, question. I see, so Orisa is still okay with her shield nerf, and when you and your teammates take damage in Immortality, you get ult charge if you're understanding it right. Sorry, with so many questions, trying to understand a bit better. Okay, so you're healing their damage in the Immortality. Right? Like, you drone, your teammates go to 50 HP or 100 HP. You heal them. You get a ton of ult from healing multiple people. They keep taking damage. What I do is at the 6-second mark for my drone, I call 2 seconds on drone, and then I call drone dead at 8 seconds, just so my teammates are very aware of it. And I'm just healing them through the Immortality just to get more ult. Talk about use for aggressive drone? Yes, in a little bit. Right now we're talking about all of the possible uses for drone, and then we'll get more into why, I guess. So we have a drone to poke for ult advantage, getting ult on your Bap by healing the damage they take. We have an ult to save yourself from a flank, and we kind of talked a little bit about when you a drone. And we talked a little bit about when to drone when you get flanked. Generally, if you're BAP and you die with drone up, you have fucked up. There is almost no situation in the game you should die with your drone up, because, like, there's an argument to say, like, if you die with your drone up, there's some situations where maybe you didn't need to drone and, like, you just fucked up and misplayed. But the awesome thing about drone in this meta, or BAP-E, is it covers up almost any misplay your team can make. So as long as you're on top of being reactive with it, using it to cover up misplays, especially in ranked, is a super valuable way to use it. And that can be a Reaper flanking you that you don't notice. That can be a ball diving on you. That can be a Doomfist diving on you. It can even be your Hanzo's in this window trying to 1v1 and you lamp him just to keep him alive. You know what I mean? Like, at any point you can trade drone for someone's life, either keeping a teammate alive or killing an enemy. That's usually always worth it. There are some exceptions to that, which I'll get into later when we talk about drone countering ults. But yeah, that's the general way I think about it. In scrim setting, though, if you drone first, you probably lose the fight. Not really. Most teams play Mei and double shield, so if I drone this corner, we peek and farm ult. We then wait here. If they drone, we just hide and don't shoot them, and then we have BAP ult. Generally, only the attacking team can drone first, because the attacking team is okay with just hiding, whereas the defending team has to hold space and actually control their objective. If that makes sense. I hope it does. Okay, so what have we talked about? We talked about droning to build ult and take space, / trading for cooldowns. We talked about drones to save people's lives. Drones to save your own life when you get flanked. Let's talk about drone in 1v1s. So this is something I think all BAPs do, but it's just important to understand why it's good. So let's say my team's in main and we win a fight and there's like a Hanzo up here, or there's like a Reaper up here. It's more easy to do with Hanzo because he's a bit easier to 1v1 in this kind of setting. So then let's say we're pushing main, we win a fight and there's a Hanzo up here, right? I can jump top and just take this fight with the Hanzo. Because assuming he's not able to like hide behind one of these corners, I can just drone myself, and he has to put like 3 full arrows, I think, into this drone. It might even be 4 storm arrows. And as long as I have like any kind of competent aim, I can kill that Hanzo before he kills my drone. And right there, I'm trading a 20-second cooldown for a kill, and it's a stagger kill. Like, it's such high value from just playing aggressive with the drone when you no longer need it for the team fight. So then let's talk about defensive drones on first point here, and like the way I kind of think about that, because I don't want to drone this corner defensively when the team is here. I also don't want to drone this corner defensively because there's not a good way to protect it. You want to be droning in locations where the enemy has to take such a wide off angle that they're probably going to die. So my favorite spots to drone on defense here are in this doorway, which I don't hate, but I don't love. I usually do this if the enemy team uses some ult in main and is pressuring. Mostly because the point of the drone is not to build my ult. It's just to trade for whatever ult they're using, heal my team, and kite. The second drone I like doing is here. And this drone is like, you can shoot it, but it's pretty hard to shoot. You have to take a pretty wide angle on point. And at that point, there's not a great spot for the enemy BAP to drone, assuming they have one. There's a lot of points on KR where there's just not good spots to drone. So like, let's say my Sigma's by this car. Where am I going to drone this Sigma? Anywhere I drone, it's going to be peeking above the car, and everyone on the enemy team can shoot it. So even if you're not playing BAP, if you're playing another hero, it's important to remember that, like, if you're not somewhere Immortality Field can save you, you're kind of throwing the fight for your team if you end up dying. Because your BAP's going to have to drone you. You're going to get almost no value out of the drone. It's going to die really quickly, and you still have to walk all this way back to the corner where the BAP can safely heal you. Because ideally, when you're saving someone with a drone, you want more value out of it than just saving their life, right? Like if my Orisa, let's say, gets pulled here and she has no fortify, she's taking poke, and I drone this corner, not only does she stay alive, but now we get to push aggressively with our Immortality Field and kind of like take a little bit of space, get a little bit more BAP ult. Yeah, if that makes sense. Aggressive droning is a hard thing to do, especially in a scrim setting. I think it's a bit easier in comp, but generally the way... Get off me, bug. Generally, the way I look at aggressive droning is when you are okay with using drone to get stagger kills. I do not like aggressively droning when it's still a 6v6. I do not like aggressively droning when the enemy has, let's say, a Sigma ult. But a good example is, let's say we're playing at this corner and the enemy main tank, let's say an Orisa, walks up main and just dies. I want my team to push, right? And at that point, I know I don't need maximum value for my immortality field. So I can drone deep. I probably wouldn't drone here. I'd probably try to drone this corner, or I'd want to take more space with my team and then drone here. And I want my team to play aggressive because I know that as we're pushing up in this 6v5, the enemy team, sure, they might kill my drone, but then they're not killing my teammate. So I'm proactively droning to kind of make sure as we push up, we're not going to get staggered. And it's important because as we pick the Orisa, I don't want to drone here because I want my team to be pushing. You know what I mean? Is it better to drone? Is it better drone to kite? Drone to kite or to counter an ult? I don't understand your question. Is it better drone to kite or to counter ult? Do you mean is it better to use it to kite or to counter an ult? Or do you... Yeah, I'm confused on your question. Okay, so using it to kite is fine in a lot of situations. Using it to stabilize is kind of the way I see it. Like, the enemy team pushes up, they use their cooldowns, you trade drone for all their cooldowns, and then your tank's cooldowns come back up, and now you have some advantage in the fight, and you get to take some space. You also build Bapple. I think that's all good. But there are some ults the enemy team has, like Bap ult, for example. If the enemy team Bap ults, like if I just place my Bap ult here, and there's an Orisa Sigma here with their shields, and I have, like, let's say myself, Orisa, and Hanzo. We break both those shields and kill both tanks as soon as Sigma's kinetic grasp wears off. Or, like, goes away. So the amount of damage output from Bap's ult is not something you heal through, is not something you kite through. You almost always will lose your shields and die to it. So it's important versus ults like that to have a corner to play on. Because if the enemy team, let's say Bap ult's here on the statue looking at my team on the defense, they can't see this drone. So we can sit here and not care about their Bap ult. Granted, they could wall us, they could pull us out of the drone, but generally speaking, droning to counter Bap ult is very good because it's hard for them to get a wide enough angle to kill the drone, assuming you're on good corners. Droning versus Sigma ult is very good because you don't always die in the air, and Bap ult's going to prevent you, or Bap E is going to prevent you from dying when you do drop. You can also save your shift until you drop to make sure both you and whoever else got picked up go back to full HP. Bap ult versus Orisa Bongo is a bit harder because it's not... Orisa Bongo is not like a static thing. Like if they Bongo at that corner, or Hanzo could climb up top and still have the Bongo. Which would make it very hard to drone in this corner. He'd probably kill it very quickly. He could also like flank inside maybe. I don't know. But you get my point. Versus Bongo, it's a little bit more dynamic and it's a lot harder to drone. What if they don't peek your ultimate? Well, the point is, specifically on hybrids and escort maps, it's really easy to force fights where they have to. So if I'm attacking here, and I ult here, and my tanks walk up and take this close fight on point, my tanks are backed up by my Hanzo damage, my Bap healing, my Bap damage, and they're here fighting the enemy shields. So they're kind of forcing you to use cooldowns to survive the Bap ult. There's a lot of different ways you can use ult, but we're mostly just talking about right now Bap drone to counter an ult rather than how to actually use the ult. Because using the ult is a lot more complicated than how to drone, I feel like. Especially in a team setting. Okay, so what have I talked about so far? I've talked about droning to peek and build Bap ult, trade for cooldowns. Droning defensively when you get flanked and you have to not die. Droning defensively to save your tanks if they're out of position or if they get walled off by a Mei or if enemy teams commit cooldowns. Droning aggressively when you're up a pick or very advantaged in a fight and you want to take space. Droning reactively to enemy ultimates to try to counter them. I think that's all of the ones I've gone over so far. Does drone go through Mei wall? No, it does not. You can throw drone over, and drone, if it's next to the Mei wall, will actually immortality people on top of the Mei wall as long as they don't jump. So if you're a Bastion on the ground, you get walled up. If the Bap throws his drone next to the Mei wall, it will still immortality you. Which is cool. Most people don't know that. Most Bastions move. But if the Mei wall is either covering the drone completely, which it can do, or if the Mei wall is cutting off the LOS to the drone, both will stop you from getting the immortality buff. And it's important to remember too, the immortality field is not this whole drone. It is this single, you can see this here. It is this little yellow thing. If you can see any of the yellow thing, you have immortality. If you cannot see any of the yellow thing, you do not have immortality. So I don't know why, like the drone hitbox is huge, but only this yellow line is actually the immortality. Which is a bit silly to me. Granted, if the whole drone was immortality, it would probably be even more busted than it is. Another way you can use drone versus Mei wall is sometimes Meis do incomplete walls. So like there could be a wall here, right? You see what I mean? Or like the first pillar starts here and it comes out to try to wall your tanks, but there might be like a little gap you can see through. And if you drone here, your tanks will still get immortality through them, like through the little corner in the Mei wall, just because the Mei didn't place her wall perfectly. What else? Let's talk about how to use drone to counter Sigma ult, Hanzo ult. Those are the main two, Sigma ult and Hanzo ult. It's easier to talk about the damage ults rather than like the hard CC ults, because like Mei ult, Rein ult are a lot harder to deal with, mostly because you usually get CC'd along with your team, and because your team is on the ground, they can't usually protect, or frozen, they can't usually protect the drone and it dies fast. But especially versus like Dragon, it's important for your team to stay in the drone, because let's say my team's playing this corner. I know I'm using a lot of KR first point as an example, but it's just very easy to kind of demonstrate it. It gets a lot more complicated as you go like further into maps, and on almost any other map. So let's say I know they have Dragon. I don't want to drone. I don't want to peek with my drone. If they bap ult, I'm probably going to call for my team to hide. I do not want to have to use drone. When I hear them Dragon, I can drone here, but the important thing for my team to do is not to all just hide here and wait out the Dragon. We now also have to use our cooldowns to protect the drone. Because if the drone dies before the Dragon is over, we will still all die. So when I drone here, we can like Sigma shield the drone. We can maybe kinetic grasp to try to save the drone. My Orisa can still play up. And in this time, as soon as the Dragon ends, I can shift and right click and it'll heal everybody to full almost instantly. How do you feel about droning in trance to save a focus target, specifically with the new spam, Meta Mei, Hanzo Bap, Zen, forces the target focus to swap? Riley, you subscribed tier 2 sub, 23 months, Pug W. Those are some serious months. Almost 2 years. God damn. Appreciate it. It's actually crazy. God. Okay, so the point you're bringing up is if an enemy Zen uses Transcendence and the Bap uses ult. Here's a good example. Did you guys know Bap doing damage alone to a Sigma who is frozen in Transcendence? I know that's a lot of fucking keywords. So a frozen Sigma in Transcendence, if Bap ults and headshots the Sigma 6 times, the Sigma dies. Isn't that wild? Why does the Sigma die? Why does Bap do so much damage through his ult with headshots that he can kill a Sigma from range through Transcendence? So with especially the Mei ult, Bap ulting to kill through trance isn't awful, or droning to save people from it isn't awful. I would use drone if they are getting focused. The issue is, normally people don't die, to be honest, because normally your Orisa has fortified, she places a new shield, your whole team doesn't get caught. So normally you don't have to use drone too, or you can drone on a corner next to your team and then try to protect it. Like let's say they Mei ult main, maybe my Orisa gets frozen here. I can drone her here and they can't kill her anymore. So yeah, I think that's a fine use of drone to save somebody during a Mei ult while you're trancing. But I think it's really specific and depends a lot more on the situation. If that makes sense. That's a really, really specific question. I have to like think about that one more and look at every time my team would get Mei ulted while my Zen is trancing and see, one, when people die, two, could I save them when they die? Because a lot of teams when they Mei ult use their Sigma shield and Orisa shield to split trance anyway. It's not like they're Bap ulting for the extra damage. So I'm not too sure about that one. And your Zen can also body block damage with trance by just standing in front of people, so that's also a really easy way to do it. Yeah, so we've talked about countering Hanzo ult. With Sigma ult, it's really important. As soon as you get picked up into the air, you don't want to just drone the ground. As soon as you get picked up, you have like, what, a full second before you hit the ground? Maybe it's half a second, but it's a long time in Overwatch terms. If you drone as soon as they Sigma ult, your drone will die if they are good players before you touch the ground. What you want to do is as soon as you start going down, you want to drone. Because that ensures that you will not die to the Sigma ult at least, and it will give people the least amount of time to kill the drone. If you do it once you've been falling for like even a quarter of a second, you'll almost have... you will have already hit the ground and you'll probably die. Does Mercy have value nowadays? Yeah, sometimes. Bap is kind of nuts though. He's kind of amazing. Okay, what else can I talk about drone?
Get in here.
We talked about how to 1v1 Hanzos and other DPS with drone. We've talked about how to save your tanks when they get walled with drone. We've talked about how to counter some ultimates. I guess another important thing on with drone is don't use it in the open if you don't have to. A lot of people in comp do this, and it's a really big pet peeve of mine. Like, if my Iris is here taking damage, I'm not gonna drone here. This is so dumb. I might as well drone in the corner. There's no reason every time I press my E ability, I'm not trying to put it in the best possible place. Would you play Bap with a defensive ultimate character? I mean, it just totally depends on the map and your comp. Bap's healing output is insanely high. I don't know the exact numbers for his right click, but his shift is 150 heals per second. Or sorry, 30 heals per second for 5 seconds or 6 seconds, and it's 150 total. I don't want to do the math in my head because I'm tired. But it's a lot of healing, along with this right click to pocket a tank. I think it's more than Moira, unless Moira heal orbs and holds mouse one. I can see the, why you'd want to have a defensible. Like, Trance is very, very good. Beat is sometimes okay. Like, Lucio Bap comps aren't awful, I don't think. But I'd probably avoid, like, Bap Ana or Bap Mercy as much. I just don't think they're as strong. But, I don't know, the meta's still new. I'm trying to think of other ways I use drone often. I should have, like, prepared something for this. Oh, droning when you ult. That's a pretty important one, actually. So, like, let's say KR is not a good map for this one. Okay, let's pretend like I'm playing BAP and I am here, and for some reason I'm on this flank and I want to ult and kill the enemy team. As I do that, they're all going to turn and look at me, and I have to drone myself just to make sure I'm not going to die. And as soon as I drone and ult, not only is that creating a ton of space for my team because the enemy team's all scared of me, but I should be able to kill people. And you always want to drone before you, as you place your ult. Because if you ult and you turn around and try to place your drone, you're now wasting time in your ult that's very important, and you might die. Stuff like that. Is it more important to save drone as a defensive ult or to win a shield battle? It is usually more important to save it to counter an ult. Generally, on most points in the game, let's use second point as an example here. As I walk up. Let's say an enemy team is here, and they're fighting my team, and we're at this corner, right? If I drone on this corner, and my team peeks, the attacking team does not care. They back up all of 2 feet, and they just wait out my drone. It's not like I can push and take super big angles or anything like that. The difference on first point compared to second point is the defending team doesn't have space to give up. The defending team has to defend this objective, and they kind of have to hold this corner. There's not really another option. Whereas the defending team on second point does have space to give up. So they don't have to, if the attacking team drones and peeks like they should on first point, the defending team can just back up a little, re-engage with ultimates on the cart, be super favored in the team fight. And the attacking team can't just keep droning and peeking just to take a little bit of space at a time, because for a 20-second cooldown, I don't think you're getting your money's worth. Per activation. After the Baptiste buff, the mouse 1 and mouse 2 combos slowed down. Is there a trick to animation canceling to heal, grenade, or primary fire now? So you can still do this, which is the same speed as before. The only difference is now you have a higher damage combo, which is this. But you heal slightly slower. But you can still do the 1-1. That's the same as before. You just now have an option for this 2-1. That's a bit I wouldn't say better, but just different. So for droning to counter ults, let's say, I don't know. I think droning to counter ults is fine. Obviously, if you're losing fights because people got picked, then you've already fucked up. So I'd still always use drone if it's a critical situation. I guess we could categorize drone in 2 ways. We have reactive drones, we have proactive drones. If the enemy has an ultimate that I want to be able to immortality field, I'm not going to use any of my proactive drones. Simple as that. If the enemy team has nothing they're going to be able to do, I might, especially if it's early on in the map where there's no ults up, I might want to proactively drone to build my ult. That's a better way to do it. 1-1 might be slower now. Doesn't feel that much slower, though. Oh, it's because the mouse 1 cancels it, so always mouse 1 immediately after the mouse 2. That's why it feels slower to you. Okay, so does that make sense? We have 2 categories of drones. We have reactive drones and proactive drones. Proactive drones include getting value aggressively in fights, either when you're up a pick, using it to push aggressively and making sure no one dies, using it to trade for shield cooldowns and getting your BAP ult, using it to 1v1 DPS. And then reactive drones really just includes saving people. I think that can be the umbrella term. Saving people from death. Good enough. I mean, really, you can just break drone down into those 2 things. And that should cover pretty much everything, I think. Right? I don't see a situation that's not or cannot be included into one of those boxes. And then the difference between them is if you know the enemy team is an ult that you want to drone, so let's say a Sigma ult, let's say a Hanzo ult, let's say maybe a Mei ult. Mei ult's a little harder because you usually can't save people anyway. But let's say Sigma, Hanzo, and BAP, sometimes Orisa too. You want to be saving your drone for that, so you don't want to do any proactive drones, but that doesn't mean you don't want to use drone at all. If somebody's feeding or if you have to drone to save somebody, using a reactive drone there is totally fine. That makes sense? Can I drone on top of this? I guess another good tip about drone is when you're 1v1ing DPS, if you have the option to. So like this one doesn't come up a lot, but I use it in comp. If there's like an enemy sniper or a Hanzo, I'm going to drone inside this room. I'm not going to drone here because he can shoot it here. If I drone here, he just has to give up the high ground to me. Because I can stand still and just like shoot him like a training bot. And I don't have to worry at all about my drone dying. Same way where if like a Widow grapples up there, I'm going to try to drone in this corner because it's the hardest for her to shoot. Fun fact, drone cannot fall through these holes like every other projectile in the game. So you don't need to be scared of your drone going into fucking nowhere land. I know with like Mei ult and Bongo and Grav, they can all go through these holes. But for some reason, drone can't. I don't know why. We might be able to find one. No, seems like it works on all. Tips for positioning as Baptiste. So let's set some objectively good things and then try to work down to situational things. So objectively good things. Not being able to get shot by snipers pre-fight because you do not have a good self-heal. Bap's only self-heal is his shift, and I believe it's on a 15 or 12 second cooldown, which is really, really, really long. You want to be saving that ideally for when a fight starts to heal your tanks, or if you do take spam unintentionally. But you don't want to be putting yourself in a position where you get Bongo can. Yes, it happened to me in a scrim. I was very upset by it. I wasn't playing the Orisa, but it was very funny. Also very annoying. So you don't want to be putting yourself in a position where you can get poked. Pretty much. And that doesn't mean you can't like play up here pre-fight and poke a bit as they come in if you're trying to build ult and then shift on your way out because you might have it up in time. But generally, you should be communicating with your flex support or main support, whoever's not on BAP, just to heal you a little bit if you take poke like that. I would avoid high ground positions where you can get Orisa pulled. So back to this example on third point. This is a really bad spot to play, and I see a lot of BAPs play here. If you are BAP and you are sitting here and you are poking people and the Orisa pulls you, you will just die. You'll get pulled to like here, and you will have to drone yourself to stay alive, and that's not. Again, we talked about it's an okay use of the drone, but clearly you're not getting maximum value when you make a play like this. And even if they like Sigma rock you and you fall down low ground, you can still just die. So it's really bad to play high ground positions where the Orisa can easily pull you. I really like off angle high ground positions. So a good one here is on second point defense. I like playing up here and healing my team. This makes it so Dragon will never kill me. I'm out of the normal spam spots for DPS if they are in main. Sigma rock's not going to hit me. Sigma mouse 1's not going to hit me. It's very hard for me to take damage here, and when they come in, I have a high ground angle, and it's not hard when my team, like if they rotate back this corner to drop with them, or if they come play over here. And from this high ground, I can drone this corner if they need. It's not a great one. This one's usually a lot better. I fucked that one up. This one's a lot better. Your tanks can just play here, kind of on the corner. sorry if you mentioned this earlier, but when would you use your ultimate in a team fight, and what characters would you want to prioritize giving it to? Good question. Prioritize giving it to is not the right way to be thinking. Like you're never bap ulting one person. If you are, it's got to be a really specific situation, and at that point, almost always has to be yourself. Your bap ult is not an ultimate for you or for your Widow or for your Hanzo. Your bap ult is an ultimate for your team. Think of it like an Orisa bongo, and that's how it should be properly used. Let's say the enemy team is playing right here, right? They're holding this corner really aggressively, and we're stopped at the payload. What I can do for my entire team is I can peek here, ult this corner, and they have nowhere they can run. Their shields will break, they'll use all their cooldowns to try to survive, and they'll either hide in here or try to kite back to this corner, stuff like that. So, I don't think, I never want to off-angle with my Hanzo and bap ult. I never want to, like, go find, like, those are all comp Q tactics that are okay. A lot of times in comp, I do ult for myself. It helps me practice my aim. Sometimes you can pop off and carry. But especially in a team setting, your ult is for your team. It is not for you. And it's not for your Widow, and it's not for your Hanzo, and it's not for your Mei. It's not for your Zen or whatever. It's always for your team as a whole. In my opinion. In the key moment, when you are separated from the rest of your team, is it worth droning yourself and trying to protect the team from there instead of droning the rest of your team? So is it better to save yourself with drone and try to heal your team, or save your team with drone? Thinking of situations where that happens is very hard. First of all, let's add a bunch of prerequisites to that. If you are split from your team and there's a fight happening, you have fucked up. So let's just start off by saying you've already made a mistake to cause this situation. Second, if your team is fighting somewhere where they can be saved by drone, which isn't a given, maybe it's worth droning them. So let's say this is a okay example, I guess. Let's say I'm playing up here for some reason, and my team's at this corner because I want to like flank ult or do something silly. And then let's say a Mei walls herself up right here, right? With no fear, and starts freezing me as their team engages into my team. What am I sipping? Water. I have the option, right, of droning my team on this corner, which might die, or trying to drone myself inside and live versus the Mei. I think it's probably always better to drone your team. It really depends on your support comp. With Bap Zen, the Bap cannot die because he's like all of your healing in these fights. Maybe you have a big ult economy, you don't need the Bap to live. But most of the time in Bap Zen, your Bap really, really has to stay alive. If you have Bap Ana, maybe you can survive. Bap Moira, you can definitely survive. But if it's just Bap Zen or Bap Brig, the Bap is so much of the healing in the comp, I think you need him to stay alive. But I wouldn't really worry about when you drone like that, to be honest. I think if you're forced to drone like that, something's already gone terribly wrong. You know what I mean? Like, anytime you're in that position, someone has fucked up. It might be someone on your team for going somewhere weird. It might be you for trying to take a weird position and not being aware of the enemy. Or not being aware of your own team's positioning. But someone messed up to cause that situation to arise. Especially in a team setting, that situation should not happen. Ever. Like, I can't think of a time that's happened to me, to be honest, in a scrim. I can think of times my tanks have overextended or my DPS have overextended and I have to drone them. I can think of times I've overextended and I have to drone myself. But your specific example of trying to drone the team when they're in a fight and you're getting pressured, I don't really have any mental image of when that happens in my head. Andre the Stig, just subscribe with Twitch Prime. PogW, appreciate it. How do you find value when the enemy team is running Lucio and either kiting or pushing past the Bap ult? I mean, what's their comp? Can you give me their full comp? Because that will very change my answer. Yeah, you've been in this scenario a few times. Some from your team and some from doing something stupid. Fair. And you always find it tough making the decision. Okay, so my default is always going to be what's the highest chance to win. Let's say a Hanzo jumps on me and I have to decide, am I droning my team or am I trying to save myself? If I think I can kill the Hanzo and save someone on the team, I will probably drone myself. If I think I'm dead 100%, like let's say I'm getting frozen, I'll probably always drone my team. But again, that situation is definitely a mistake somewhere, and I try to fix the mistake rather than worrying too much about the decision. Because like in Overwatch, the decision making when mistakes get made is important. Understanding how to like react to situations, like if somebody gets picked, how do you reposition? If you waste an ult, how does that change your plan in the moment? But that mistake is almost so trivial, like it shouldn't ever happen. It's not a mistake that's ever forced by the enemy team, which are a lot of usually the hiccups you have. It's just like a really easy to fix positional mistake. It's not worth worrying about what to do in that situation. It's like, let it be instinctual and do your best effort consciously not to be in that decision again. Or not to be in that decision, not to be in the place again. Situation again. I hope you get what I mean. I'm sorry if I'm rambling. Para, can you specify what comps you mean? When you said how do like verse Lucio speeding past your Bapple, like what comp is the enemy team playing? Because it's very different if they're playing like a Mei Hanzo versus like a Reaper or like a Doomfist. So like, I just want to know like what your exact concern is. Normal meta like Reaper Doom. Yeah, we'll say Reaper Doom or Mei Doom. Okay, so it's important to understand how you win those fights. Okay, let's assume I am playing Orisa Sigma, Baptiste Zenyatta, Hanzo Mei. So let's talk about first the defensive tools in my comp versus their comp. Immortality Field. Amazing ult, stops people from dying. Or amazing, keep saying ult, dude. It's just so good. Amazing ability, stops people from dying. I have 2 shields, pretty good at mitigating damage. Kinetic Grasp, pretty good at mitigating damage. Fortify makes the Orisa pretty much unkillable. I have Mei Wall, super important, helps split people. I have Ice Block on my Mei, which makes her untargetable, and then my Zenyatta is just kind of I don't know, a pinata for them to beat. But the advantage to my comp over there is they're playing, let's say, just Lucio Moira, Reaper, Doomfist, Orisa Sigma, or Reinhardt Orisa, which we've seen in the EU Pugs, or Reaper Mei, something like that. Their shield health, Sigma shield plus Orisa shield, is 1500 HP. 1500 HP breaks so unreasonably quickly versus Zenyatta, Bap, Hanzo plus any other spam that they're almost not even real shields. So you pretty much put the enemy team on a clock as soon as they peek you to win the fight before they lose their shields and die. Reinhardt, while he has more shield, isn't really that much better in that respect, because when his shield breaks, you still kill him. The advantage to Sigma shield over Reinhardt shield is even though it's weaker, you can still position it away from Sigma, so when it breaks, Sigma's not just dead, and he still has his kinetic grasp, which is pretty effective. So, like, let's say I'm at this corner, right, and they're at this corner, and they're playing the Lucio Deathball comp. I have my Hanzo take a slight off angle and start poking them. My team is not engaging. My team is not pushing. My Hanzo takes a slightly wider off angle. My team walks up a little bit. We're positioned in a way so the Bap and the Zenyatta cannot get dove by the Rein. When their team runs into my Orisa and my Sigma, I am droning them immediately. Pretty much immediately. My Mei is walling to try to split people, and the target focus on my team is always the tank shields. Because as soon as those shields go down, you know, we're in a matchup where our backline provides so much more damage and healing than their backline that we just win every time. The only advantage they're going to have is that initial speed and fight. So they, to be generous, they probably have about 5 seconds at most. It's probably more like 3.5 to 4 seconds to win that fight before they just lose. And if they're this close, I don't want to Bapple here. If they're this close, I want to Bapple back here because my tanks don't need the damage, right? I'm going to be able to heal them more through it, which is great. My Zenyatta's going to do more damage. My Hanzo's going to do more damage. My tank's only job in those kind of fights is just to not die. And that's why speeding past the Bapple isn't very common. Like, if they're able to speed past it, you're probably using it wrong. The best way to play a spam composition into that death ball composition is never to engage, never to force a fight. You slowly walk up, you slowly take space, and you win the fights by just pressuring down their shields and forcing them to continuously kite back. Are there any uses to drone besides using it to save teammates that might come up often? 1v1ing DPS. Fucking huge one, 1v1ing DPS. Proactively countering ults. So like think about if they have a Sigma ult, if they have a Hanzo ult, how you're going to deal with it if they have a High Noon. Using it to protect yourself when your team ults. Or like when you BAP ult for your team, using it to protect your team. If you go back to the start, I talked a lot more about all the different ways to use drone. We broke it down into reactive drone plays, which involve saving people, and then proactive drone plays, which include taking space, building BAP ult. So like, let's say, it's easier to show on first point, but let's say right at the start of a round, I want to build BAP ult faster than any ult on the enemy team. I'll walk over to the corner first to show you. I should have more move speed on, dude. Low. First fight, I'm the attacking team. The enemy team's playing here with their shields. I walk up to this corner with my team. All we use is drone. We peek. We all take damage as I'm healing everybody. I build my ult. We're shooting their shields. We pressure down their shields. Wait, you did, Suzuki? Are the names blurred enough? Can you blur the kill feed? That would actually be sick if you can blur the kill feed and the you'll post the real one in a minute. Okay, I understand your. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. It's just such a good tweet, guys. I 1v4'd on BAP today, and it's such a good tweet. Okay, what was I saying? Droning on this corner to poke, take damage, force their shields back, and heal your team to build ult. That's a pretty unconventional use of drone. Against a Lucio Moira type cop, what do you when you are playing spam? Does your handle take an what? Against the Lucio Moira Hanzo take an alt angle. It depends. A lot. So let's talk about I'm going to draw on the screen with my cursor. I hope you can see it. Can you see? Oh, there's not a there's not a good way to do this. Okay. Well, what did I do to zoom? Okay, whatever. Doesn't matter. So let's say we're attacking first point, right? And my team is playing at this corner with their drone, shooting an enemy team who's hiding, waiting to engage. It's fine for my Hanzo to take an off angle, but it's important to remember what are our win conditions in the fight. Sure, picking somebody's a win condition, but that's not consistent. That's relying on both my sniper making an outplay and the enemy team making a misplay. Getting a pick pre-fight should not happen. Our real win condition is breaking the shields. If our Hanzo is flanking for picks, he's not always helping with the shield. He can take slight off angles, so let's say we're right side here on the statue. He could totally be up here. This is fine. He could totally be up here. He could maybe play like even a little bit left side and try to spam through here for some damage. The important thing is once the fight starts, we want their Reinhardt shield to be as low as possible and kill it as fast as possible. If that makes sense. To carry, is it more important to be a DPS Baptiste or a healer Baptiste? Good Baps should be able to balance both really well. Especially in comp, having high damage stats is very important. What makes Bap so good is he is a scary fucking hero. As any other character in the game, when you look at 1v1ing a Bap, you should go, oh fuck, he can just kill me. Right? And that level of respect to the enemy Bap is really important. Or like that level of respect to a Bap is important. Because if it's a bad Bap player, and you're not scared of that 1v1, the hero loses so much power. Because not only are they zoning DPS just by existing and by positioning pretty aggressively, they're then taking pressure and requiring more resources from their team to stay alive. So like a good example is in a Tracer 1v1, you don't have to kill the Tracer, you just have to scare her enough where she goes and does something else. So if she peeks you and goes in on you and you use your shift and you like body shot melee her, like body shot her twice and melee her, she's in one shot range. You can just instantly kill her from that point. So it's important to have good enough aim where you can be like assertive with your BAP play and be aggressive. But it's important to realize the way you win games playing BAP, especially in scrims, is by being a heal bot, which is fine. Today on Kings Row, they had Sim and Torb on defense. We really struggled to push considering some teams hold right up against the gate. Is that when BAP should build ultimate to force them back? Yes, that would be a great situation to use BAP to build ult. Because as soon as you have that BAP ult, if they're playing close, you'll break their shields, you'll kill them super easily. Yes, so that's a good example. Let's talk about how to use ult.
Now entering King's
Or like a little bit of how I like using ult. Who should you primarily be shooting as BAP? Seems like it's mostly just spamming shields, but I don't know, you're just playing wrong angles or whatever. Yes, it is mostly shooting shields. It's really good to poke out DPS who are on flanks. So like, let's say my team's walking up top right here, and there's like a Hanzo in window, or like a Hanzo here being annoying. I can shoot him because my damage is not meaningless. My damage does hurt him. And that forces heals not only off their tanks, but also him to play more scared. So like, you want the enemy DPS player to view BAP as some unkillable demon who is always damaging them at range and who they are scared of peeking. Because you don't actually have to kill the Hanzo or the Widow or whoever. You don't actually have to, like, every time they show their face, shoot them. But you want them to be scared of looking at you. That makes sense. Like, I know that sounds a little weird when I say it like that. But I hope you kind of get what I mean. You're shooting the people your damage is most impactful on. Most of the time in fights, your damage is most impactful on the shield because your team cannot leverage any poke damage because they have so much healing. Sometimes in fights, poke damage is very important. Sometimes poke damage is better than shield damage because it builds you ult and you want to build your ult faster. Sometimes poking DPS is high value because they can't easily get healed. So there's a lot of like situational things that come into that, and it's never always going to be one rule. But the default can always be shoot shield unless there's a DPS doing something. Shooting the DPS is fine. Don't do this shit and jump peek their shield because good BAPs will kill you. I had a great clip against an unnamed main support where on second point KR, I had a fight right here. And my team's holding this corner, and I drone inside. We're holding the corner aggressively. I'm playing back. And I see the enemy BAP jump up here. And I triple tap the BAP, and I kill the BAP. And I was like, this is why this hero is so amazing. Is because I just punished such a tiny positional mistake because I just had amazing aim at that time. You know what I mean? Hopefully that answered your question. I know I'm on a bit of a tangent there, and I apologize. But hopefully that worked. Made sense? Puggers! I'm glad. Okay, so some other stuff to understand about drone. We're just going to talk about drone mechanics. If I want to drone this corner, how do you think I should do it? Should I try to throw it at the corner like that and risk maybe overshooting it and having it go main? Or I could do a safe bounce that's pretty low to the ground to get it close to the wall. The higher the bounce, the farther out from the wall it's going to go. The lower the bounce, the closer to the wall it's going to go. So you don't have to like land it directly on the ground like that. You can always shoot it a little bit higher and have it bounce. It's pretty neat. You can't throw drones straight up. It hits the skybox. I mean, you can throw it straight up, but it hits the skybox, so it sucks. How does Overwatch feel now since the patch release? Well, I've been playing on PTR a lot, and I love it. One, you have to be a lot more careful about positioning because there's less shields. I think everybody feels more impactful because there's less shields. More tanks are playable and competitive. In scrims, it's still just going to be Orisa Sigma, but it's okay. When your team is all together in a team fight, do you really focus on where your grenades are going? Or am I just most wanting grenading pretty much where the team is without you really thinking? Okay, so this goes back to the question of when should you be doing this combo thing, which I know Blinky's talked about on stream. This thing. And I don't like shooting people mid-fight 90% of the time. My damage is usually not enough to do a lot. I do shoot people in the middle of a fight when I can confirm a kill. So, let's say I'm playing main, and my team calls enemy Zenyatta 1. My hero can do something no other hero in the game can, or no other hero on my team can, and that is jump and kill the Zenyatta, and keep healing my team. If your team dies because you are not healing them, that is entirely your fault all of the time. My mouse ones are very particular about when I want to use them and how. I always want to be healing on my Orisa. Especially in double shield meta, it's not really your job to do much more than pocket your Orisa. Like, Bap Orisa are a unit, they are always together, and the Bap is always keeping the Orisa alive. Other people can join in on that unit, but the Bap is not going to be splitting off a lot playing with other tanks. If you put Bap and Orisa together as like a two-man squad, they are so unreasonably unkillable that it forces the fights to get way slower. Because the Orisa can fortify and then shield and then get droned and then has fortify and then has shield and then the Bap does this. Then the Orisa hides behind the corner for a second and then fortifies and then shields and then you have another Bap drone. And like, I think that as Bap, your priority is healing your tanks. In comp, I'm not very diligent about this. In comp, I go for a lot more damage. I average 13k damage per 10. Whereas in scrims, I've been keeping track of it because I'm a nerd, and I average about 11k damage per 10 and 14k healing per 10. Whereas in comp, I only average 9k healing per 10. And that has to do somewhat with my team being more together and understanding where I'm healing, but it also has to just do with when I'm seeing value from shooting. In comp, sometimes you see more value from shooting because people are less organized, and in scrims, you usually will see less value from shooting because the poke doesn't really matter and people are more organized. I really hope that helped. Is drone slower if you throw it straight up or if you bounce it off a wall? I'm pretty sure off a wall.
Get in here. Get in here.
It might be the
Get
same.
in here. Get in here.
I don't know.
Get in here.
It feels like it's slower off the wall.
Get in here.
What about this kind of
Get in
thing?
here.
Why can drone go up there? What is flat ground for a drone to activate off of up there?
Get in here. Get in here. Get in here.
I don't understand.
Get in the
I would generally versus Sombra do this,
Get in here.
but you don't see a lot of Sombra or this, or just position where she can't EMP you, dude.
Get in here.
That's also easy. Thanks for answering your questions, giving you really good tips, and helping you become a better player. See ya, my guy. Good luck.
Immortality bubble.
Okay, guys, that's all of the BAP shit I can think about right now, to be honest.
Get in here.
Practicing Kobe drones is important. Understanding like where your drone goes is important. Being comfortable droning corners at range is really important. Being able to like throw drones quickly, reacting to stuff. Remembering how long your drone is up for. It's 8 seconds. You should have a mental timer where you drone. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2 seconds on drone. Drone dead. Give your team a little bit of time to get out of the line of fire. But like those kind of reminders and voice comms will save your team many deaths. How do you deal with over-aggressive teammates? Depends. I mean, are they literally feeding or are they just playing aggressive? Like, you can play aggressive with them and pocket them, and that's, like, super fine. You can drone for, like, less value, but hopefully their aggression is a good trade with that value. Like, you're getting less value from your drone, but maybe they're getting more value from their spam, stuff like that. But there's no way to deal with them, right? You just have to enable them as best you can. That's what your hero does, pretty much.
Get in here.
Like, in comp last season, I hit top 10. I hit rank 5 playing BAP. And in all of my games on BAP, I played most of them on stream. You probably can't go back and watch them, actually. But the way a lot of them played out was, like, my teammates were not great. But every time, what I did to try to win is I would call, I'm droning on this corner. You're safe to peek. Drone's down in 2 seconds. Any good drills to practice BAP aim? Oh, heck yeah, dude.
Hold up. Let me find you this code that I really like. Actually, BAP aim is a great topic, first of all. Because a lot of people, my aim on BAP, I think, personally, I'd like to think at least, is I'm one of the better players at aiming on BAP in the game, especially in chaotic team fights. And there's only a couple situations that are hard. So first of all, to be quite honest with you, training bot practice on BAP is not bad. The majority of times you have to hit shots and kill people, you are in your ult. And you're not shooting. If you go and watch like anybody's Twitter clips about when they're ulting, you're not shooting while like jumping around trying to like triple headshot tracers. You're literally usually standing still shooting moving targets. So stuff like this, which I'll go to the proper angle to do this one, are pretty, and I'm sitting terribly, so I might mess this up massively. But like even stuff like this in this training range, just practicing with one hand, getting her as soon as you can. Stuff like that. The Pharah practice is a bit weirder. You realize it's actually really inconsistent to shoot Pharahs like in the head. It's like if you just try to go for the headshots, it's pretty hard. I don't know why her head feels really tiny when you do it like that. Code is, oh yeah, here you go. Credit to PMA Jellies on Twitter. He gave it to me. Posture check? Fuck you. That's my posture check. Hope you liked it. Also being able to do this. Like this is really good practice. Take a long angle on a bot. Play over here. And just try to land 3 headshots on the bot. It's not the hardest thing to do in the world. I don't know what these are. What? I can't move my mouse.
You're powered up. Get in there.
I'm unstoppable.
Can I move my mouse again, please? Do you get what I mean, though? Like, BAP aim isn't a lot of, like, jumping around, practicing, like, sick flicks. It's just, like, being consistent and slow with your aim. So, like, one of the things I like to do is I like to, like, flick on training bots and just try to... Jesus Christ. And just try to hit all 3 headshots. So, like, normally when I'm warming up for a game, I'll just do shit like this. Because you're not always hitting every shot, but, like, it's pretty good. I don't know, pretty good practice. Kind of. Just playing him a lot. His aim's a lot different than anybody else, right? Because you have, like, this 3-shot burst. Okay, guys, that's pretty much everything I have to say on BAP. If people have other specific questions, I will try to answer them. Please let me know right now. But just for people who don't know, I assume everybody here does, but because I like bragging, because who doesn't like bragging? Season 18 support, I was rank 5, playing mostly BAP. I went, I think, 14 and 3. 14 and 3 on BAP. I had pretty low stats on this account, actually, only 4.26 elims per life. Right now on my main on BAP, which is named Viatorum, I think I average over 5 elims per life, and I averaged 13k damage. This is when I was playing BAP before the buff too, so the damage stat's a bit lower. Want to watch some of my VODs on BAP? Yeah. I should really just upload more content to YouTube, but I'm kind of a lazy fuck, so I'm pretty bad about that. This specific VOD will be going on YouTube because I promised it. What's my shoe size? 13.5, gamer. I am a huge person. Am I trying to get back an owl? I mean, yes, but if that doesn't happen, probably going to go to college. Probably already looking like I'm going to go to college, but we'll see. Yeah. Will Brig be good at all with the armor change? No, I think Mercy should be changed at all. I think Mercy's in a good spot. Maybe you can slightly increase her single target healing. I'd be happy with that change. Mercy's like niche is she's a very good single target pocket, right? Not only does she help somebody flank, she can damage boost them, she is okay healing on them, and resurrect is her like unique ability kind of. The issue with Mercy is her healing is just low, And her damage boost, while meaningful, isn't that much better than most other heroes. Like, because she's not doing any damage, right? So her damage boost is making up for, like, the lack of a 6th player. So I would like to see Mercy's single target healing buffed a bit. Yeah. Please upload more YouTube. Yeah, dude, it's just so hard. I think Brig might be okay. It'll probably be a little better in comp. Orisa definitely got buffed. I know none of you people want to hear it. Orisa got buffed. You all have to live with that. What changes would I have to make to put Zen back in the meta? Zen is already back in the meta. Don't tell anybody. Orisa right now has 450 HP. She has 250 armor. She has this broken ability for 4 seconds that makes her an unkillable demon who's stampeding through your face. It's on an 8-second cooldown. She has a shield. She has miniature graviton surge. Like, she's just literally an insane hero. You can play her in anything. She can survive alone on objectives. She can 1v3 characters if she has Fortify up. She enables every ability in the game by doing this. Like, she's just nuts. Actually insane hero. Fun fact, Orisa tries to cross choke, Bap ults, Orisa dies in 3 headshot bursts. And her head is very big, so she's very easy to headshot. Okay, guys. That's all for me. Appreciate everybody hanging out. If you have any more questions, join my Discord. Put them in the hashtag Ask Questions channel. Is that fortified or no? Not fortified. But even if she fortifies, you can kill her in 4 bursts. Even shorter if your team shoots her. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Yeah. I might stream later tonight. I don't know. But thanks for hanging out again for the fucking 5th time because I can't keep my mind on one topic. Hope you all have a good night, good morning, whatever. I'm going to upload the VOD to YouTube. It should be up, let's say, tomorrow evening. Maybe? Yeah. Yep.